Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we have 3 brand new CRKT models that just dropped. Everything will be linked down in the description. All the knives from this video are a Richard Rogers design, and we're going to start it off with the Rogers PUP. Now, the Rogers PUP is using a twisted damascene steel blade. This is made in Italy with titanium scales, titanium backspacer, pocket clip, and a carbon fiber inlay running on a double detent. Now, I'm really happy to see CRKT using more titanium. I think it's a good thing for them to appeal to knife guys in the knife community. And I think it's good for them and any company that wants to be a leading knife community in, not only in the knife community, just period. I think it's good for them to listen to some feedback and like knife reviewers and things like that who are up to date and get to handle pretty much everything around the world, you know, and all the knives, and they have opinions on certain things and how they could be done better and things like that. And I just think it's good for companies to listen to that, because the companies that are doing extremely well because of that reason. Anyways, so beautiful Damascus. The double detent works extremely well. This jimping on the top of it, it has a good amount of traction. And the size of it's so small, like you wouldn't even know I have this in my hand. I mean, it's so tiny, but it's super snappy. And for a knife to be so tiny and be this flickable, it's amazing. It's such an easy flicker. Like you can just pull down just like a regular flipper, and you can shut it, but I'm not sure if this one's on bearings or not. I'm thinking once it breaks in, it'll close much easier, but you see I can close it on one shot. I just hold a little bit high when I do it and pop it down like that. But on the break, on the close, it is a little bit slower than on the open, which is not a problem or anything. It'll break in and it'll wind up, you know, getting to that point to where it literally shuts the same speed that it opens. And you can do it still. This one's still breaking in. But for a little tiny knife, man, this is a 3-fingered knife. This is, you know, basically like a 5th pocket knife or something. It's something you could carry, I don't know, in the inside pocket of a jacket. The clip, you know, does work well. It has a good ramp, you know, and, you know, it's a very small clip, but it's hanging onto a very small knife. So no problems with that. I dig it. I dig it. It's a little small for me personally. I'm sure Kara will love it, but I love the style of it and all of that. My one criticism would be the sharp control and plunge grind. They don't give me a good choil. I wish there was a good just a little sharpening notch there so that I don't have to worry about hitting this plunge grind when I sharpen it. However, I probably could stay in front of that. Yeah, I could do that, but I always just typically want a nice little sharpening notch. The edge too could have been just a tiny bit better. It's still very sharp though. But anyways, let's get to the next one. This is very cool. Now the next one is another titanium frame lock, and this one is also designed by Richard Rogers, obviously, made in Italy again. Magnet cut steel with a titanium handle, carbon fiber inlay, is limited to 500 pieces. So this is a limited edition model. So if you're wanting to get it, you know, the time is when it's available. This has, like I said, magnet cut Persian. It's a harpooned Persian blade. Luckily, the Persian isn't so high that it's not possible to get to the tip, because this one you can easily get to the tip, and you can use the belly to cut down on a surface, and you know, you can obviously slice with it. It having, you know, a little bit of a bigger belly, you know, you want to kind of kink your arm a little bit to keep yourself in the cut, which is not a problem. And yeah, obviously for thrusting, this thing's going to be amazing. The handle, the titanium handle, has this a taper to it that tapers down to slimmer. Like I was saying before, you know, or I guess that wasn't before, I was in another video. I say this often, that I typically would rather have slim to thick rather than thick to slim, because your pinky and your ring finger are what really hangs on to the knife. You know, your upper hand, you know, it's just kind of a base. These fingers just kind of like just basically hold it in place. It's really these 2 fingers that are doing all the work. But This is good still though. Like, I don't have any problem hanging on to this. It's thick enough and broad enough that I still have a good solid grip to it. And that poon, my thumb lands perfectly in there. The titanium has this diamond texture on it, and the carbon fiber, the carbon fiber also has the diamond texture on it. It's really cool. They machined that. Fits really nicely. They did a really good job fitting that in there. Titanium pocket clip and a titanium backspacer. That's a floating backspacer, by the way, with a hidden little lanyard pin back there. You have really smooth action. The flipper tab works very well. It has good jimping on it, not too slick. Now, I will say the detent could be a little stronger on this one. I can easily fail it. Now, I do notice that the detent ball is breaking in, so I assume once this thing's fully broken in, the detent will feel much stronger than it is. I think it's just, you know, the detent ball breaking in, and it's smooth. Like, you can see, look at this. This is super duper smooth, and it's very easy to reliably open. Like, you would never fail it as long as you know the detent, right? Like, I could see somebody coming up and doing that, but once they know it, they're never going to fail it again. And you have a good landing zone. You can push button it or light switch it. The access to the lock bar, they gave you a chamfer on both sides. So when you disengage it, you can let it get past that detent. Detent ball's nice and early. Like to see that, because then, you know, it's very easy to shut the knife without sitting there jumping back up on the detent. So that's awesome. Now, as far as cutting geometry, it does have a blasted finish. It seems like it has a decent edge angle, but the geometry, it's in the happy medium area. It's not super slicey, it's not super thick. Basically what you would expect from this size of a pocket knife, you know. It's not going to be fragile, but it's also not going to be hard use. In the closed position, you can see it has an attractive look to it. Now, the negatives I have, what negatives do I have? So one, lock bar access. I wish they cut this back right here and allowed me to come from the side. It's just, I always want that. I always want more lock bar access than I probably need. And I want that because I want a knife to close just as good as it opens, or sorry, just as comfortably. And I don't like to wedge my finger in there and try to find the lock bar. Now this one's fine. Like, I'm, you know, not saying that this one's horrible or anything. This one's just fine. I just prefer to come in from the side instead of the front. The next thing is, I do wish the detent was a little bit stronger. And then the sharpen, choke, and plunge grind, once again, you can see it starts here and it ends pretty much at the edge bevel. You can see the line. So it will create a smile when I sharpen it. Not too big of a deal. There's plenty of room so that you can cut in your own sharpening notch if you wanted to. So there's not a lot of negatives here. And the ones I am nitpicking about, some people are probably not going to agree with me. You know, everybody's different in the type of detent they like, and, you know, lock bar access, you know, some people don't care about that. Some people like me are very nitpicky over it. So it just depends. But all in all, like I said, I'm loving to see CRKT doing knives like this. Let's get to the next one. Now, the last one is the Q, and this is also made in Italy, magnet cut steel with titanium and carbon fiber, limited to only 500 pieces. This is my favorite one. Favorite one, that's why you save the best for last, right? Save the best for last. This is a good looking knife. Very attractive. Like I said, made in Italy. We have magnet cut steel. Now, I should check the HRC on what they're doing on these ones, but I will say that recently I seen I seen them doing magnet cut better than they were originally. I seen them up their HRC, which I'm very happy to see them do that. Hopefully this company did as well, because a lot of companies, especially Italian companies, they tend to run their super steels on the softer side, and everybody knows that, which is not good. They should run it on the higher side, especially with sometimes the geometry they use. It just doesn't make sense to run it, you know, as soft as they do. So it's nice to see them, if they're going to run it at an optimal range, I would say 62 to 64. I preferred 63, 64, but if we can get 62 to 64, I think that that's acceptable. And, you know, I've done a bunch of testing on magnet cut steel, you know, and I've seen the difference between, you know, a lower HRC versus a higher HRC in every way, shape, and form, how the performance changes. But we have a drop point blade. Nice geometry. Again, not too thin, not too thick, exactly what you'd expect from something like this, where it's, you know, going to be plenty tough, but not too tough. Crowned spine. Then you have this fuller that has a nice sharp edge. We'll talk about that in a second. Then we have a titanium frame lock. You can see the steel lock bar insert there. Nice big steel lock bar insert. Carbon fiber inlays that are done extremely well. Titanium floating backspacer, once again, you can see it floating away with a nice lanyard hole back there. Now, the flipper tab has the jimping on the front end of it, and it works extremely well. The landing point is really nice right here, nice comfortable landing point. You can do a light switch or a push button. It really likes them, that was my fault. It likes them both. So, you know, it's just whatever your preference is. I think in this case, I prefer the light switch, I think, but I like them both. Then you have the fuller. Great reverse flick from the fuller. You can thumb flick it, but it's not going to be as easy. It's a little tighter, but you can do it still. And you can easily slow roll it once you pop that detent. Pop and then go. But the fuller though, nice and sharp. And if you want, you can go lower. If you want it to be a lighter detent, you know, if you want it stronger, just lift or just flick higher. This is the closer it is to the pivot that you flick, the stronger the detent's going to feel. So, but either way, both of them are very reliable. Then you have this handle, which tapers, like I was saying just before, from slimmer to thicker. I like that. Feels really good in the hand. Kind of sits a little bit forward, which I also like. That's going to help me trap in materials. And then also, you know, you can see how it kind of cants downward. That's going to help me with utility cuts, cutting down on a flat surface. And, you know, I could easily use it in any grip I want, you know, so any direction I'm going to cut in, you know, regardless if it's the gas station knife fighting grip or, you know, if I'm cutting down on a surface, it does not matter. So that's always awesome for me. Access to the lock bar. They did chamfer both sides once again, but no cutout from the side. It's fine. Like, it's not uncomfortable or anything. Of course, I would love to see a lock bar cutout there, but it's still good. So, you know, I don't really have too many complaints on this one. And I kind of feel, maybe not, I'll say I kind of feel like this scale might be up a little bit higher, but it just disengages really good. Anyways, yeah, like I said, the ergonomics are super good. It's just a good thickness, a good width, a good everything. The action is really nice on the drop. It is very smooth on the bearings, a little, well, I'm not gonna say tight. It's breaking in, still breaking in. I imagine it's going to get smoother and smoother as time goes on, but it's very smooth. Like very, very smooth. I can maybe feel the bearings slightly rolling, but that'll change once they break in. And it's probably not even the bearings, it's probably actually the detent ball. Can use this one left-handed. It does not have a reversible clip, but because of the carbon fiber over the handle, you can easily do that. Now, nitpicks and negatives. What do I think is a negative on this one? So the sharp control and plunge grind on this one is a bit better. I do want to give this one a little bit of credit because it starts here and it ends right there. So he did give you a little bit of life to sharpen off. Granted, I always want more, but this is still acceptable. I have room to sharpen without creating a smile for the first few sharpenings. Happy to see that, or at least that's what it seems, you know. Depends on how low you put your edge angle, because that'll be a bigger bevel the lower you put the edge angle. So no problems there. Love to see that. The lock bar access, I could use a little bit better lock bar access. The clip works fine, so no problems with the clip. It's a little stumpy, but hey, it works. So, you know, and to me, it's attractive. I'm happy with it. The finish though, you know, it's a blasted finish. I would love to have seen this in a satin or a stone washed finish. I think that would have been very attractive. I know they're trying to match the titanium handle, you know, with the blasted finish, and I get that. but I think the blade would have just stood out a little bit more if it had a vertical satin finish, maybe a deep hollow grind or something like that. Either way though, you know, it's still very attractive. It's an attractive drop point knife. I don't really have any negatives on this one. The only thing I could really come up with is the detent could be, I mean, a pinch stronger. I don't want it too much because I love the reverse flick on it. So in order to have that, you kind of have to, you know, lessen the detent a little bit for the flipper tab. And it's so good already, I almost argue with myself on whether or not I would even want to do that. It's so good. Yeah, I can't. I would like it to be just a tiny, like I said, a smidge stronger. And to be honest, I could easily do that myself. I do have videos on that if you want to learn how to do that. So yeah, all in all, man, super solid. I will say, like you said, these are limited to 500 pieces. So when it comes to the prices, I do understand, considering that these are limited edition. Between these two models, I do prefer this one just because of the style, but this one definitely feels a little bit more refined or a little bit more premium. And it has to do with the scales. So this one just has, well, not just, but it has flat titanium scales with a flat inlay of carbon fiber. This one is slightly contoured with a slightly contoured inlay with the micro machining, which definitely adds to the feeling of it as far as quality and, you know, what you, in the work you see put into it. This one's a bit more simplistic, which a lot of people might like. They might want just a simple premium knife in premium materials, but it does show, you know, when you're looking at, you know, the little details, you know, like the way the edges are chamfered, whether it's contoured, whether it has micro machining, how the inlay's done, all those things play a part, but also increase the price the more you do it. So, you know, I understand maybe them holding back a little bit on these and not doing some of that stuff that they could have, but being limited edition knives, it would have been nice to see to some extent. Now, I know it's got to make sense to them. They got to be able to make money, and why do it otherwise? So I get it why maybe they didn't, but it doesn't stop me from still, you know, loving to see or wanting to see just a little bit more, meaning, you know, maybe just a little bit more work put into the titanium. You know, neither one of these have machining on the inside, so they have no weight relieving. I mean, they have the inlays, so that makes sense, you know, but, you know, I'm just saying, like, there are little things that can be added to a model to make it stand out and make it even more premium, whether it's the blade finishing, the lock bar axis, the way the edges are chamfered, whether the scales are contoured, whether there's micro machining, the type of hardware, you know, all those things really stand out, especially to knife guys that really get to see a lot of knives. But either way, like, you know, like I said, these are premium knives from CRKT in premium materials made in Italy, and they are done very well, and I'm very happy to see CRKT stepping into this arena. It really excites me, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for the future. So there's lots of reasons why these are going to be a little bit on the higher side of price, but they're not obnoxious. They're not crazily priced. They have a reasonable price for what you're getting, for sure. But I would love to see CRKT start doing production models like this that are not limited edition. You know, even if they do somewhat of a limited run, you know, they don't have to say that and just, you know, make them as people want them. When they stop selling, you know, then maybe, you know, you can take them off the shelf or discontinue them or whatever. But it'd be nice to see, you know, a version that's going to be around for a long time. That way, you know, it can be featured in many videos and this and that. And I also would love to see CRKT take some of the criticisms, and I say this to any company, you know, any company that ever wants to contact me for any reasons as far as, you know, my opinions on things or anything like that. Not saying that I'm anybody, you know, but it's just, you know, I do handle a lot of knives, a ton of knives. So I get to feel what's really well done, what's not, what works, what doesn't, you know, and when you get to handle so many knives, you really get a different perspective on what's good and what's not. When you don't have that perspective, it's a lot different. But when you've seen everything, then you know little details that some companies do not do, that if they did, they would be so much better. So just saying that, just putting that out there. I love you guys. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.